Your mindset determines how you view the world. As usual, this content is not scripted. Now, it's part of it because of my objectively intelligent mind. Yes, but the principal concept behind my spontaneity is this idea that I detest rigidity. I detest the idea of this sequential transitioning from point one to point two to point three. And once you miss the perfect transition, that in and of itself is enough to mess up the whole communication. Your thought pattern becomes muddled. In summary, it reduces the flow of conversation. So I love this idea of it flowing directly, speaking primarily from the heart and based off of personal experience as opposed to research and bullshit statistics. But completely, this is a subject we've discussed previously. And if you've seen a video adjacent to this one, there I expound that your mindset determines how you view the world. How you view the world determines your action. Your action produces results. Results is the ultimate quality of your life. Which is the problem with people? They try to change things in their life by going after the end. They try to change the debilitating result by attacking the result in and of itself. You try to change lack and scarcity in your life by getting that Gucci belt, by financing something it's impossible for you to afford just so you can flex on the gram, creating a semblance of success. We all know the story of the blind man or the blind men who were sent by this king to describe an elephant. On their way to the fields, they met a shepherd. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Could you point us to the direction where the elephants are grazing? Ah, just walk 50 steps forward, then 20 steps on your left. By the sounds, you'll be able to identify where the elephant is domiciled. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They approached the elephant, and the first blind man held the tusk of the elephant. The second held the trunk. The third went to feel his body. The fourth rubbed his flat head, and the fifth held his ear. Rejoicing happily to relay their findings to the king. We've done as you've asked. We've interviewed the elephant, and here's our finding. Man one, the elephant is as strong as a thorn. That's the guy who held the tusk. The second one, who held the trunk. The elephant is in the similitude of a cobra. The third, who felt the body, describes the elephant as flat as a wall. And in that progressive manner, they went on to describe the elephant wrongfully based off of their perception. Say, for instance, there was danger associated with an elephant. If someone was to describe to them, hello, run for your life, there's an elephant coming, their defense mechanisms would adjust based on their perception. So the guy who identifies the elephant as a cobra is most likely bending down and trying to escape while fixing his gaze on the floor. And in that like manner, they would adapt mechanisms which will prove futile when the elephant attacks. We can then extrapolate this concept. You clearly see that your perception has a huge role to play as touching your life and destiny. Imagine there was a financial opportunity associated with one of these animals. The chances of them capitalizing on that are in the single digits. Back to the initial point of changing effect with effect. This is something you see with mortal men. They strenuously attempt to change effect with effect, but you can't change things by changing external things. Alluding to the example I shared previously, I recall years ago, very, very tiny, conscious of my stature and my weight. I couldn't wait for the holidays because whenever I went home, I would put on a ton of weight. I came back to school, lost all of it. So that was the cycle. I came across this concept of changing things by working with effect. And I decided to do a little experiment. The results were beyond imagination. As I go to holidays, and within 3 to 4 days, I put on a lot of weight without eating next to nothing deliberately. The holidays are over, return back to school. Doesn't stop there. I break the bank, get Quaker oats, protein shakes, and every single thing that would boost my calorie intake. And within days, I lost a lot of weight. Why is this the case? Although, on one hand, I consumed more calories and it created the opposite of the desired effect, is because I've spent a lot of time in that thinking holidays, weight, school, lose weight. So that habitual thinking has created a system in my body such that it responds and reacts to food differently. More than the calorie intakes or the calories that reside within your protein shake is the belief that aids that bar, is the belief that aids that healthy meal, is the belief that makes every single thing you're doing today work. The mind is a very powerful concept. It is true, and I've seen this in my life, that you are able to use your mind to heal yourself from various diseases, including poverty, because poverty is a disease. Poverty will subject you to a second class type of living. Poverty would do very harmful things to you. Poverty would make you take action you previously didn't believe were capable of. Poverty is that bad. I believe it should be categorized as one of the diseases. But the main point trying to highlight is how you think determines the results. And I've said this countless times. The things that happen to us is not what causes pain, but the interpretation we give them. You see this in the life of Daniel. The king requested his soldiers to go to the village, bring young people who were without blemish, boys to be particular, who were without blemish and of understanding. Daniel and his friends being part of this crew. A portion of the king's table be allocated to these youngsters for their health while they were being trained in the way and lives of the Greeks or the Babylonians at the time. And Daniel purposed in his heart not to desecrate himself with the king's meat, because in the days of old, before those meats are placed on the table, it's most likely the animals were dedicated to all kinds of gods, which were against Daniel's belief at the time. He said to the eunuch, "Excuse me, sir, we would rather starve than eat of the king's table. In fact, we prefer vegetables, we prefer leaves over this meat and wine." The eunuch said, I respect your decision. However, when the king looks upon you and you appear unhealthy, I will lose my head. So there's something I can't do. Here's your meal. Wait, said Daniel. Let's make a deal. If after a week of consuming only pulse, substitute as vegetables, and we look any less healthier than the children consuming the meat, feed us of the same plates. The deal was made, and after a week, Daniel and his friends appeared more fairer than the people who consumed the king's meat. Yes, this was a miracle, but the point I'm trying to highlight, like that young man in college who truly believed that home equates to weight gain, school weight loss, that you can believe that if you consume XYZ, and truly that belief would radiate towards your whole body and produce the desired outcome, produce the results. How you see things determines the quality of your life. How you see things determines the quality of your life. For the sake of time, we'll end it here. As always, my friends, pleasure speaking to you. See you in the next one.